This is Thank You Mama, weekly lessons from mothers all around the world. Hello and welcome to Thank You Mama. My name is Anna Teider. My guest today is Dana Rimawi. Dana is a Palestinian American. She was born in Kansas, raised in Texas, and she's currently based in Jordan. Dana is a brand strategy consultant and a founder of Amen, a company that unites corporate social justice and well-being of the artisans through rugs designed and hand-tailored by local artisans and refugees. Dana, hello and welcome.
Hello. Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
I'm very happy you are here. Dana and I met, when did we meet? Last Christmas. When you came to visit Vienna. My husband and Dana's brother went to university together, and this is how we met. And when Dana told me about herself and her work with refugees and her relationship with her mom, I started begging for her to come on a podcast. It only took me a year for Dana to say yes.
I was going through a lot at the time.
Thank you for that. But now I have you here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Dana, tell me about yourself. Let's start with your story and it's where you're from and how it all happened. And let's go into your company and teach us about what you do with the artisans and refugees.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Well, I'll start with what we call a third culture kid. Being born and raised in the south of the U.S., then living in Jordan, moving to Saudi Arabia, back to the U.S. again, living in the Midwest, and then the East Coast. I've experienced multiple culture shocks. So I'm like a cocktail of cultures at this point. Literally, I've got my love for Texan cowboy boots, barbecue sauce. Yeah, beautiful winters of the East Coast and Christmas. And then suddenly, I'm all about family gatherings and a bit of belly dancing and spirituality. So it's quite a mix. I'm the youngest in my family, so I've pretty much allowed people to lead me, me through life. And I think that took a dramatic twist after 9/11.
Were you in the States?
9/11. Yes. Yeah. I was in Boston then. I was working at the time. And it triggered a lot of questions for me. 9/11. And I think the biggest ones were, why was the media portraying all the Arabs as Muslims? And then why were all the Muslims being portrayed as bad? I felt like I was the villain suddenly. And I didn't know how to defend me or them, and I kept thinking, well, it wasn't my fault. I loved America, and I think this inspired me to actually start my first business, which was to create cultural iconography T-shirts that countered the mindset and connected Arab similarities.
Yes. Teach us a little bit about the Arab culture and the religion, because it is definitely too much of a stereotype that all Arabs or even the whole Middle East is Muslim, which I know through my Persian friends is not true. Tell me a little bit about the different cultures and religions in the Arabic world.
Yes. As we know in the Arabian world, we know that the three celestial religions came from there, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So naturally, Arabs are a mix of those different faiths. So they're not just Muslims, they're Christians, they're devout Jews, and each one lived across North Africa, the Levant, and part of the Gulf areas. And I would say a lot of the things that I realized with time is that the Arabian, we're spread out all the way from Iraq to Morocco. And other than just the language being a commonality, we had a culture that was in common. We had what we call the tabla, which is the drum, the beating of the drum for music. And people dance to it as soon as it starts, and there's folklore dancing. You've got the khamsa hand, the evil eye against the evil eye. That's across probably all cultures now. But within the Arabian world, that existed, again, across all religions. It was not just one specific religion. So we had a lot of that. We had a lot of like the geometric symmetry that we saw come out at some point in Andalusia, in Granada, which is a theme throughout the Arabian areas. So a lot of the T-shirt icons that were used were something similar to that, just saying like, hey, we have a life. It's not just about religion. And there's a certain lifestyle we live. We enjoy belly dancing. We love dancing and we love food. And you'll see traits of Bedouin traits within Arabia, and you'll see the farmer like traits, you know. So it's quite a diverse mix. And I don't know if I've answered your question about the culture, but definitely we have similarities across the board. We're all about family gatherings. It's not like, you know, in most, you know, capitalist kind of corporate, you know, countries, corporate run countries, let's say, you can't just pick up the phone and be like, hey, I'm coming over for coffee right now. I'm swinging by your office. So still there's kind of that culture there, you know, it's still, we haven't lost that yet, which I find quite nice, you know.
It
not
sounds Croatian. I know that from Croatia.
Yes, there you go. Yeah. So Eastern European, maybe, you know, it's like, it's not, we're still very close, you know, and, and a lot of times we don't even have therapists because we have each other, you know. We're constantly talking about our issues or with family members or friends. So I would say that's that. In terms of religion, yeah, I mean, I myself went through a phase, and 9/11 triggered it, I feel, which was, let me see, we tend to take the easy route and we want to be led what to think about Islam, what to think about Christianity and in the different sects within Christianity and Judaism. We tend to be led. And really, I've realized that's where we go wrong. You know, I feel like it's all about you understanding your own religion in a way. I mean, we're educated enough to go in and want to dig deep if we want to and understand the historical context of things, which helps us, which helps the acceptance of others, especially in, you know, within Palestine or Jerusalem where my mother was born. That was a big deal. She constantly went to spiritual sites, all of them. It was not just one religion or just the mosque, or no, she went to, you know, any spiritual site that would let her in as a kid, wanting to explore and understand. I feel the journey has been great in that sense. It's allowed me to realize that a religion to me is an individualistic experience, you know, and spirituality is between you and the universe, you and God, and anything in between is just society telling us where to go. So in that sense, I feel that's what we've experienced. A lot of people have that perspective. It's not just me, but they don't know how to talk about it. You know, they're embarrassed or they shy away from saying, okay, I'm Muslim. Being Muslim doesn't mean you practice everything, right? I mean, I know many of my Christian friends and Jewish friends who do not practice every part of their religion. They take what suits them and how they feel they can, you know, let's say, have the integrity towards it. That's something that I feel is a misconception. As you find some extremists will say, well, you go out to mixed places, or you go out and drink, or you go out. And so all these different things that are taboos or looked upon. Well, I believe everything is in moderation. I don't think anything should be an extreme. Moderation is great. What's wrong with moderation?
Dana, let's go back to, so you are in the States, it's post 9/11, and you started your company with the T-shirts. What I just want to go back to your journey a little bit to tell us how you got to where you are now.
Yes, I would say after that, you know, just to kind of hone in on the idea of what happened after 9/11 was that I think it opened up my eyes to see when I was walking in Boston, walking around. I just started noticing everything lost its individuality. Every block just became another Midwestern town almost. So I started thinking, well, do I want to be here? Do I want to be in place where it's lost its uniqueness, no more cute little cafes. And I just realized I wanted to be in a culture that was not driven by franchises. And that's what led me to think, well, how can I help transfer the knowledge I've gained in my life and give it to people who are eager to learn something new, who accept openness and who have acceptance. So I picked up Anna. I picked up from Boston and I went straight to Jordan. And I thought to myself, if I can change one person's mindset, I've achieved my goal.
Did you have somebody in Jordan? Did you have family or friends? How did you choose Jordan?
Yeah, well, because we had a home there.
Mm-hmm.
Being refugees, every Palestinian found a different country. So for us, it was Jordan. Mm-hmm. And so, I went back. My grandmother was there. Mm-hmm. I had aunts and uncles there, mm-hmm. And in other countries, but I had quite a few there. So I felt comfortable doing that. And at the time, I was working at a startup that had employees in Jordan. So we were traveling quite a bit the last few years. So I think that was, and then the sudden need to belong even forced me to, it attracted me to go there because I no longer could relate to the States. So I think that's the jump I made there. And I realized every move we make in life, whether it be physical or mental, is an answer to our internal struggle. It's
absolutely.
Some kind of answer.
Yeah.
From there, I went ahead and started working at one of my dream jobs, which is in advertising. So I was a strategist. Yeah. So I was a strategist and worked really long hours and then slowly started realizing, where is the moderation here? Where is the balance? Reminder. So then I got into, So finally, the last part of my career, I had the job that I wanted, which was an executive job in branding, brand strategy, strategic partnerships, social responsibility for corporates. And now I'm a brand strategy consultant, and I've somewhat included some mindfulness into my consultancy. So I think that will then tie into Amen, the business I started.
So you are your own boss now.
Yes. Correct. So, one of my biggest passions I've realized from the t-shirt company I started to Amen is that I love bringing people together. And I think when it came to Amen, it was about accepting individual self-expression, creating that sense of belonging, spiritual belonging, and inspiring artistic beauty. So it was a mixture of things. These are luxury rugs, luxury spiritual rugs that brought, which I called serenity, that basically in my mind allows us to transcend all our limits within ourselves and with one another through that self-acceptance without the judgment, living life leisurely. So I felt this kind of brought things about. And just the fact that why aren't we enjoying that we're just alive? Can we celebrate our existence? We're lucky to be alive. And why do we have all these barriers? So just enjoy it. Express yourself the way you want spiritually. Don't judge anybody. And, life is good. That's the essence of Amen. And when people ask me, what is it that you're doing when you say transcendence? And I think when I say that, this unites all religions, all faiths, all different beliefs. It unites humanity. It unites artists because it's got, design in it. It unites refugees because they're working behind these rugs and making these rugs, and free thinkers. So for somebody who wants a bit of spirituality, a bit of luxury, and a bit of inspiration, we've got something for you.
Okay, so now I need your rug.
Yes.
I have to come to Jordan to get it.
Yes, you have to come. That is it.
Yeah, should we? And now I'm curious to learn more about the family history, which leads me to your mom.
Yeah, Mamacita.
Mamacita. So her name is Fairuz, and we just learned that she was born in Jerusalem.
Yes.
Tell me about her.
Well, Mom is incredibly unique. She's graceful, artistic, yet very logical. Okay, she's always been about family, female independence, and was a true humanitarian in the sense, during Ramadan, which is, the month of fasting for Muslims, she used to invite everybody that didn't have a family She used to fundraise for refugees. She still funds an orphan to go to college at Birzeit University in Palestine every year. So she kind of had this little mixture of things that were just her, you know. And I would say the three main things that my mom, you know, if I were to say, you know, chunks of her personality, she was creative, caring, and a businesswoman, a savvy businesswoman. Yes.
So she was born in Jerusalem. When did she leave? When did they have to leave? And where to? Did they go directly to Jordan?
So mom was born in Jerusalem in 1946. And in 1948, they had to leave Jerusalem, West Jerusalem, because she was living in West Jerusalem, since it was taken by the Israelis, and was relocated. So when she was relocated, it was then Eastern Jerusalem, and then Ramallah, and then Jordan, because they couldn't go back. You know, they were waiting to go back. They couldn't go back. And then they settled in Jordan. So, and I think that's where the concept of her caring came from, in essence. Like, my mother lived with a mom who always yearned to go back to Jerusalem.
No.
She just could not accept the diaspora, constantly spoke of her abundant and beautiful life in Jerusalem and how it was taken away, you know, by the Israelis. So my mom had to take care of her and her siblings, and then later her own children, in just the most graceful way. I'm not sure how she managed to be such an adult.
How many siblings did she have? Was she the oldest?
So they were a total of 7.
Oh,
she was the second to oldest. Yes, they were quite a lot, and I think that's why she always felt for people who lost a parent, a partner, and from there, every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, Ramadan, Eid, she would make a point to have a dinner, invite all these close or distant friends and family together, bring them together for heartfelt, bountiful, you know, dinner. And I think that's what also led her to still help, you know, refugees, of course, go to the camps. And she met a woman who embroiders and started, and this embroidery that this business that this lady started helped support 200 other women in refugee camps.
That's amazing.
So she started really?
Wow.
Yes, and anytime a friend used to come and visit Jordan, she'd take her, you know, she'd take her to that lady, and, you know, and they would buy the most beautiful pillowcases and dresses and scarves. So it was quite an interesting take on how she translated that experience. I mean, and that fear, by the way, that fear created a lot of issues for us. So, you know, about the great things that my mom gave us, or we learned from her, there were things that were a bit of exaggerated because of the fear that she had, experienced.
Of losing your,
of losing everything.
It's terribly traumatizing. It's really terribly traumatizing. And this sadness never leaves you. This feeling that this life was stolen away from you. I just experienced it this winter a month ago. They were doing tests for air raid sirens in Vienna, you know, and I had a terrible reaction to that, because it brought me, and for some reason, maybe because of Ukraine, it went on for like 30 minutes, this air raids.
Wow.
And it just took me back to 30 years ago when I fled Croatia under an air raid, and I suddenly felt, which I never felt before, I really felt this grief for the life that was taken away from me, even though my life is amazing the way it is now. But I felt like, what would my life be if I stayed in Croatia, in my country, with my family, with my friends? It just felt like, in a way, it wasn't my choice. It was just ripped, you know, away from me. And
that makes it all the harder, I feel.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sad to hear that you know, that had happened to you and many others, you know, as well. I feel that we always, like, a lot of times they say, going from rags to riches.
Yeah.
Well, what about if you had riches and you went to rags? And that's like, honestly, and that's what a wake up call, you know? And I think looking back at it, it is generational trauma exists. And I think, how do we heal it? You know, some people say forgiveness, which I think, of course, forgiveness is important, but it's also acceptance. It's acceptance. And a lot of times you need the person on the other side to just acknowledge that they've done wrong, you know, But definitely when my mother used to tell us things like, don't publicly say you're Palestinian because I don't want it to affect your work, your school. I don't want it to cause problems for you. And so we had to live an identity that was, yeah, okay, I'm American. I grew up here, but at the same time, I have to talk about my roots. I can't not talk about them. Yeah. And when I went to Jordan, actually, I experienced that because in Jordan, of course, you want to be accepted as an Arab. I consider myself an Arab. Yeah, I'm Palestinian and stuff, but I'm still Arab. So of course I can fit into Jordan. My extended family lives there. But then I was still different, because they're not all, okay, majority are now Palestinian there, but at the same time, they're the ones that came in. They're the refugees. Thankfully, Jordanians have accepted Palestinians. But coming in, knowing that your last name is a Palestinian last name, that's pretty known there. People know each other's last names based on their villages, so you can't really run away from it. So even then, it was hard to be accepted sometimes in Jordan, and I think I realized then, Anna, that you need to accept yourself for who you are. I'm now a mix. I am bloody American, bloody Palestinian, and I have to accept it, and I'm going to talk about it. And it took me time to talk about it, to be safe, to feel safe enough to talk about it, and unapologetic.
Yeah. Let me go back to Mama Fairuz. I want to learn a little more about her. Did she go to school? How did she meet and marry your dad? How many brothers and sisters do you have?
Yes. Okay. Well, yes, she was educated in Syria. She went to college in Syria. And she met my dad in Jordan. Yeah, meeting my dad was interesting because he was a bit different than the people around her at the time. He had just come back from the States. He also went through his own personal journey, which I have not asked him if I could share. But I would say at that time, my mother looked at my dad and I think felt like he was somebody intelligent. He went to University of Michigan, worked in the States. And so she felt like, no, this is a good, back then I think they had to think of logical relationships. And she liked him, she there was chemistry. So she agreed. So she married him. So we're now, we're a total of 4 kids. I have 2 sisters and my brother. And, my mother, when they got married, picked up and moved straight to Texas. Oh, wow. They came straight to the States. Yeah. So, and I think that's where we get to see a bit of her persona come out in terms of her creativity, came out through these different changes. Her persona in terms of being a savvy businesswoman appeared in Texas.
Oh, did she start a business in Texas?
So she had a career. So she worked at the Saudi embassy. And while she was there, she started, any income she made, she started investing it. So she started investing it in real estate that earned money. So apartments. She found a way to just, her and my dad, save money where they could open up a business one day in Jordan. Kind of like he trusted her enough, which is amazing, because I feel not many men in general, and this is not to stereotype, sorry, but like in general may not be so trusting when it comes to, can my partner take care of the finances? And so he trusted her in that area, and she was a builder. So she picked up from there and just kind of replicated the same in Jordan when we moved back.
That's amazing. When did she move? Did they move back at the same time? Or?
So what happened was they stayed in Texas for about 11 years. And then they decided they wanted the kids to learn a bit of culture and the language. And then at that time, my mom and dad agreed to starting a business there with family members. So we moved to Jordan at the time, and that was a big culture shock. But also, while we were there, we lost everything.
No, financially,
so a huge financial blow.
Oh, no.
And I remember my mom just coming to me and telling me, she fell really ill at the time.
Oh.
And she came to me and told me that we have to start over. And at that time, Anas and Lama, Lean, my eldest sister, had gotten married. Lama and Anas were going to university.
Oh.
And she had no idea how that transition was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember her saying at that time, I visualize good scenarios when I close my eyes and I imagine white light and how I want things to be. And so she picked herself up gracefully and had that kind of positive thinking and found a way to adapt.
How old was she at
moved to
that
Saudi
time?
Arabia. She must have been 38.
Okay. So she started. Okay, so late 30s, and then she started. So they moved to a new country and started from zero in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she must have been like late 30s, early 40s, like 40.
Yeah.
So they needed to start all over again. And she, picked herself up. This was a new mission, sent the kids to university, and then, started adapting. And that kind of adaptability I picked up on, moving around, being positive, having that kind of meditation mindset. So she actually, when she got there, she noticed how all the shops had all these beautiful pearls, gemstones, and she started buying them and making little bracelets and beautiful necklaces. So she just picked up and started going back to her creativity and started working with her hands, let's say. And I think that's where all the magic was. That's what helped her cope through this transition, and having faith that, God's with us. There's a reason why we went through this. Yeah. And they stayed there for 11 years. I went off to university from there. And then they followed, when my dad was ready to semi-retire. We all had finished college and started working. They moved to Boston. They joined us in Boston. And and that's where my mom picked up painting and soap making. And when she picked up, she can't stop. She's like an avid student.
Busy.
So she started painting, and 2 years later, she was painting landscapes and portraits.
Oh,
people started asking her if they could commission her to paint their portraits. Yes.
Wow.
And I think during this time, again, she encouraged all of us to start to save, to start to invest. She found apartments. She found this. So she had an eye for these things. And, family members till today and friends ask her
for her financial advice.
Business. For her business opinion on real estate, where she thinks is a good location, where they think they should buy land. Yeah. So she's managed to get herself fully immersed in that kind of creative business. I don't know. She had a flow going.
It sounds like growth.
Yes, growth. Totally.
Dana, is there more we should learn about her, or should we jump into lessons? I have a feeling you already spoke about so many lessons as you were speaking, but maybe we can just share them concretely.
Yes.
So let's just close up on her. So she's now in Jordan, I guess, retired and happy. Is she a grandmother? She's a grandmother.
Yes, she's a grandmother, and super caring, and still busy. She still paints. It was a bit hard for her after my grandmother passed away to get back into painting, but she's slowly getting back into it. She used to write little short stories as a kid and poetry. So she's also, I think, slowly kind of getting into that. Yeah. So she's that same person, got into interior design and decor for our house. People asked her about that as well. Can she assist them in that? So I think in summary, she's busy. She's creative, caring, and a great businesswoman.
Oh, amazing. Let's sum up the lessons that you've learned from her, that you shared until now.
Yeah. So I would say financial independence is key. That's a primary thing. Female independence, having a voice, having an opinion, positivity, adaptability is what I've learned moving around all these countries, scenarios that I've been through my life. I've learned to adapt easily through her teachings, and the concept of Johnny Walker, keep walking. Hers is keep educating yourself. So keep learning. And that's it. I mean, I would say these are the main kind of big points that I've taken with me.
Can I add something that I wrote down as you were speaking?
Sure.
I wrote down reinvent yourself. I think that's so important, especially for women, because women go through so many different phases in life. And that's something I learned from my mom. And she was very consciously trying to teach me that and tell me that a woman's life has different phases and that it's totally okay to reinvent yourself, you know, even in your 60s.
Yes.
I think I have a feeling beautiful. I've learned that from your mom.
By the way, I still remember your mom's what she knitted for you, that hat.
Oh, the hat that
Vienna.
Yes.
It's still sparkling in my eyes, by the way.
So
I'm like, that's so a lot of times when I see some of these kind of like those hats, I'm like, oh my God, I need a beanie. You know, I need to get a beanie and I'm gonna do it myself, like Anna's mom.
Put pearls on it.
And I want to put pearls, yes. I wish I could have met your mom, by the way.
Know, she was
amazing.
Yeah. But let's quickly talk about if there was anything she was not able to teach you, something important that you learned yourself.
Yeah. She wasn't able, I would say, to teach us how to defend ourselves or pick up on people who weren't the same. She was a peacemaker, so avoided conflict. And that made her super protective and fearful of harm. So we only interacted with people that were like, had the same value system. So for me, that was traumatizing later because as I moved around countries, when I moved countries and matured in my career, I started realizing, well, not everybody has integrity, loyalty, honesty, or even innocence for that matter. And so I would say, I wish she gave us some kind of radar, you know, how we can pick up on those kind of people, or maybe just traits, or maybe just let your daughter or son loose, you know, let them experience the real world at a younger age. And that just means just don't be so overprotective. I feel that was something I wish, you know, I'm grateful for, but yet I you know, it was quite difficult or not difficult. I would say I needed to deal with a lot of betrayal and deceit. So that was a disheartening experience. I managed to get out of it, which is great. And I'm thankful for my family for that. But so I would say that, and her fear of saying publicly that she was Palestinian or that we were really took a toll on our identity. You know, the need to belong just became a bit different. And that took time to get out of the vulnerability of it and say, I'm okay to have a Western mind and Eastern body and be safe saying I'm a Palestinian American. So I would say those two things were the main things that really was a life-changing experience. And we all had to, and me specifically being the youngest, where overprotectiveness was even more, had to deal with it, you know? So I would say, as many other things, also avoiding conflict. It's okay to disagree. You know, it's okay to disagree and to voice your opinion. You know, sometimes these differences, Anna, you grow from them. You learn when you disagree. You learn when there's conflict. You know, you can't really avoid it. You know?
Before we recap, is there anything else you'd like to add about her, or should I just quickly recap the lessons we shared?
If you'd like to recap, I mean, right now I feel like I spoke a lot. So if you'd like to, sorry.
So we spoke about being independent, and especially financial independence. We spoke about having a voice, especially as a woman, daring to have a voice and having an opinion. Surviving by adapting and being flexible and thinking positive. This is almost its own lesson, I think. That story was so beautiful, how she just decided to see the light and see a good outcome. The importance of education and to continuously keep learning. I added reinventing yourself because I love how she constantly reinvented herself, also professionally. And then as things she was not able to teach you, you spoke about overprotectiveness. I wrote down a radar to pick up on quote unquote bad people. But maybe let's put it that way. Let the kids experience the real world earlier on so there are no big surprises later. Yeah. And then identity, standing to your identity, which took you obviously quite a long time to work on. And the last thing, that it's okay to disagree and it's okay to have your opinion and voice it. And you said we sometimes even grow from conflict, so we should not necessarily avoid it. I think that's it. Yes. This was very inspiring. Thank you, Dana, again.
Thank you. Thank you. And I can't wait to hear all the other episodes of Thank You, Mama.
If you enjoy Thank You, Mama, and want to help it grow, please take the 2 seconds to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send me a mail at info@thankyouMama.net. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Anna Teider, that's Tajder. This was Thank You, Mama. Come back next week, subscribe, and tell your friends.